Good evening. Jesus said, I came to cast fire upon the earth. Do you want to be on fire for God? Jesus shocked his disciples when he declared that he would cast fire and cause division rather than peace on the earth. But the question is, what kind of fire did Jesus who have in mind here? The fire of God's purifying love and cleansing word. The image of fire in biblical times was often associated with God and with His action in the world and in the lives of His people. God sometimes manifested His presence by use of fire, such as God's revelation to Moses to the burning bush in the wilderness, which was not consumed by the flames. If you remember, that's in the book of Exodus. God assured the Hebrew people of His continual presence, guidance, and protection for them through the wilderness for 40 years with the pillar of fire by night and the pillar of cloud by day. And Prophet Elijah called down fire from heaven to reveal God's presence and power and to purify the people of false idols. The image of fire was also used as a sign of God's glory and holiness, His protective presence, and His righteous judgment, and His holy wrath against sin. Fire is also a sign and a symbol of the presence and the power of the Holy Spirit. If you remember, we see some lit of the candle, supposed to be near to the tabernacle. It's a sign of God's presence. That's why every church as you go, you can see a tabernacle, the same time a candle, a lighted candle, isn't it? Meaning that is the presence of God. John the Baptist said that Jesus would baptize with the Holy Spirit and with fire. When the Holy Spirit was poured upon the disciples at Pentecost, tongues of fire, remember the Pentecost, the tongues of fire appeared above the heads of the apostles. So we can see from both the Old and the New Testament that God's fire purifies and cleanses to make us clean, and it makes us holy. That's why, if you remember, if you already attended, or every year you attend the Easter Vigil Mass, the first part of the Easter Vigil Mass is the blessing of fire. It means that God is accompanying us. Even though our life is in dark, but God is accompanying us in our dark moment in our life. That's why did Jesus link fire from heaven and costly division on earth? Did He expect from followers to take His statement of father against father, or the son, or so father against the son, and then the son against the father, or the mother against the daughter, literally? Or He was intentionally using fire as a figure of speech, or the division as a figure of speech, to emphasize the choice and cause of following Him? Jesus used a typical Hebrew hyperbole, a figure of speech which uses strong language and exaggeration for emphasis to drive home an important lesson. We often do the same when we want to emphasize something very strongly. The hyperbole of Jesus, however, did contain a real warning that the gospel message does have a serious consequences for our lives. That's why when Jesus spoke about division within families, He likely had in mind the prophecy of Micah. What is the prophecy of Micah? It says, "A man's enemies are the men of his own household." That's why the essence of Christianity is loyalty to Jesus. I would repeat. The essence of Christianity is loyalty to Jesus. A loyalty that takes precedence over every other relationship. That's why you didn't realize when we go to the church on Sunday. What is Sunday? How many, what is the number? How many we count Sunday? What is the numerical value of Sunday? 8th, isn't it? 8th day of the week, at the same time, the first day of the week. See, the importance of Sunday. See, 8, meaning it's a perfect number. And we dedicate this first day of the week to the Lord. That's why our loyalty to Jesus takes precedence every other relationship. That's why going to the church is not a place where you go. Going to the church is like going to a family, creating the relationship with Jesus. It's beautiful. And the love of God compels us to choose who will be first in our lives, and to place any relationship above God as form of idolatry. That's why if you love others and you make God a secondary, that is idolatry. That's why when we go to confession, we oftentimes we say, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I did not go to Sunday Mass." Because it's a realization for us that if God is a second, and the other thing is the first, that is idolatry, that is sin. That's why Jesus warns us. Okay? That's why Jesus challenges His disciples to examine who they love first and foremost. The true disciple loves God above all, and Jesus insists that His disciples give Him the loyalty which is only due to God, a loyalty that is higher than spouse or kin. It is possible that family and friends can become our enemies if the thought of them keeps us from doing what we know God wants us to do. Meaning, if we have this family that wanted us to separate God, they become our enemies. Or sometimes these friends of ours, instead of helping us to encounter God and to seek God, sometimes they are the hindrance. Isn't it? That's why Jesus is giving us the warning. You see? That is good in Jesus. That's why the gospel message is good news for those who seek pardon. And God offers us His Son, Jesus Christ. That's why good news, meaning it is about God, it's about Jesus, the joy of being through encountering Jesus in our lives. We see the two things in the gospel for today. The fire that purifies us, the fire that makes us holy. As a reminder for us that fire is God is present within us. That's why Jesus says, the fire must be blazing within us. That's why let the fire of the love of Jesus, let the fire of the love of Jesus blazing in our hearts, so that we become loyal to Him and become God will be our priority in our life. Amen.